Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. It's your Heroine-Disguise, here to save the replayability of your games with a mind-blow-over breakdown, because I'm implanting in your minds a build for the X-Men's very own White Queen, Emma Frost, in Dragon Age 2. If you know of the X-Men, you know who Emma Frost is, and if you say you don't, you're lying, and she knows because she is a telepath. Her skills rival Professor Xavier, and her additional mutations, such as latent telekinetic abilities and the ability to harden her skin into a diamond-like substance, has made her one of the most unique telepaths to encounter. Her combat skills and intense astral projection make her a formidable opponent on the battlefield. Her sharp tongue, high self-esteem, and willingness to do what it takes to see her goals accomplished make her a delightful character to roleplay as in games with voice characters. BioWare's second installment of the Dragon Age series is the most fitting for this mashup because of the voice protagonist, the abilities in the mage skill tree, and the political turmoil Thetis is in. Mages, like mutants, are always fighting for acceptance, freedom, and equality, either through diplomacy and acts of goodwill, or by force and rebellion. With tensions rising between mages and Templars following the devastation of the Blight from the previous game, and the threatening presence of the Qunari in Kirkwall, it will take a powerful, persuasive, and capable mind to shape the future and set the stage for the next game's world state. The main elements of this build affect customization, dialogue options and choices, factions, companions, and combat. If you're ready to jump into the stats, skills, and quests this build is based on, then click on the timestamps in the description to have your mind TLDW to that part of the video. Otherwise, let's break this build down. Alright, it is incredibly easy to make an Emma Frost in this game. You have more than one hairstyle to choose from that's reminiscent of her portrayals over the years in comics, animated shows, and in fan art. You can wear red or blue lipstick, and she's already voiced perfectly. I decided to change Emma's appearance halfway through each act for a little variety, and I started with long hair and ended with shorter hair by the end of the game. Of course, you'll need the Black Emporium to change her appearance during the game. I really couldn't overthink her clothing in the game. The only white outfit I saw was the one her mother wore, and so I found a list of mage clothes on the wiki, and hardly found any of the outfits that I felt would fit Emma's aesthetic. Maybe you'll have better luck if you try this build out, but I was never pressed for finding certain clothings and armor before. Emma Frost is a feisty wordsmith. She has a cutthroat personality and is hard to hurt with words. She's crafty, sarcastic, and always says what she thinks. Hawk can be the same way depending on how you choose her replies. They can lead to entertaining conversations. You'll be able to use a nice balance of all the dialogue wheel options depending on who you're talking to and how you feel. I figure Emma would speak kindly to those she respects or needs to influence, then gets aggressive when that doesn't work, or just condescends those she doesn't value or actions she'd see as foolish, except for people like Varric who like a good sense of humor and sarcasm. And that isn't to say that her treating others well is pure manipulation. Emma has developed bonds with others before out of respect, care, trust, or necessity. And with the countless dialogue options available in the game, you can embody that in this build, and I will give you a small taste of that.
The wrath of the Templars is terrible indeed. There's more going on here than you and Marathari have told me. We can't afford that kind of liability. Tell me the truth. I'm in no mood for games. We came here to speak to our uncle, Gamlen Amel, and we won't leave until we do. Call it what it is. You summoned a demon. I'm ready to prove myself. All right, Aveline. You have something worth doing? I'm here to help you, Fainriel.
Why? You don't even know me.
I am you. You have my sympathies. Do not fear the Templars finding out. Never mind, Donick. I need to know if Aveline is giving you easy patrols. Tell this dirtbag who we are. If the Circle suspected a demon at work, they wouldn't risk setting you loose in the city. We've made so many enemies. I don't remember him as that impressive. Feel better getting that off your chest?
I suppose.
Good. Because I keep every death with me. If you want that weight, be sure you're ready to take it.
You've been sticking your nose in every problem in Kirkwall since you stumbled off the boat.
Who are you again? If nothing short of killing you will stop this, then so be it. Goodbye, Calder. I will not be toyed with. How did you... Oh,
understand me, Messere.
When it comes to goals and alignments, Emma is a mutant who's worked with the X-Men, the Cabal, Hellfire Club, Hellions, Generation X, Dark X-Men, Frost International, Phoenix 5, and Legion Accursed. Emma is pro-mutant and will do what she believes is necessary to bring mutants forward. So as a mage in Dragon Age 2, she's going to be pro-mage. She would push whomever she needed to push if it meant mages were treated a little better, respected, or even free. Obviously, she wouldn't suffer fools, mage or not, and will quickly eliminate any threats to her. I'm not entirely sure how she would feel about blood magic. It is an extension of magic, a tool, and like any other mutant with a certainly dangerous power, it isn't fair to outright hate a mutant for having a certain ability. The way in which they use that ability to achieve certain goals can be judged more realistically. Intentions are what tip the scales. The difference here is that blood magic, though it is an extension of magic, it is a skill within that ability tree that mages choose to learn. Learning certain skills often opens certain opportunities and creates a reputation for those who learn those skills. Sure, all mages are susceptible to possession by demons, but those who choose to practice blood magic are more likely to attract and make deals with them. She may care more about how that power is being used and if it would affect her goals. I don't think she would have much respect for Templars, as they abuse their power, exploit fear against mages, and oppress mages, given the way mages are treated in the Gallows, and even how Bethany is treated by Sir Wesley in the beginning of the game. But Emma is too intelligent to be unreasonable. So again, it all depends on how people act around her, and how she views their actions that determines who she sides with when she needs to. Emma can read her party members well, and responds accordingly in order to gain their approval if their goals align with hers. If she feels she needs you on her side, she will make you feel you are needed. That being said, Emma is going to have a hard time with some of her companions at some point. Much like she did in the comics and animated series, Emma's relationships could fall apart at any moment. Once she realizes that the goals of her allies no longer align with hers, or if they have the potential to cause great destruction, she will be the one to make tough decisions. Decisions that will seem like a betrayal to her allies. For example, Meryl isn't getting the Alluvian shard that Keeper Marathari gave me, no matter what her intentions are. She's being used and misguided towards a destructive path, and I chose not to have Emma allow that. Anders, Aveline, Varric, Carver, and Isabella will all have the same trials and companion quests, and you can decide what Emma values when it comes to all of them. I'll be honest, I've always struggled to get Isabella to be loyal to my character, so she always ends up taking the relic and skipping town. I tried to side with her towards the peak of the conflict in hopes of gaining enough trust to have her stay, but it didn't work, even as I played this build. Which is really no fault of Emma's, but lessons are learned about people this way, and Isabella's betrayal will not be forgiven. Combat is where this build shines. Mages are good for many things, but all we need is range and crowd control. That's precisely our role in this build. Entropy will be our major skill tree in order to dominate the minds and wills of others, making them see illusions, putting them to sleep, and messing with their perception and accuracy by clouding their focus in battle. You'll use other trees to help with things like paralysis, barriers, dispelling enemy attacks or barriers or debuffs, minor kinetic ability as she is a latent telekinetic, boosting ally morale, and weakening the spirits of your enemies. Entropy seems to be an underappreciated school of magic in Dragon Age 2. We often encounter mages during the main story who rely on blood magic or elemental magic in combat, with the exception of barriers. So this makes you a more unique mage as far as combat. Many of the abilities have to be considered tricks of the mind or astral projection in a way. The telepaths can block thoughts and effects from the minds of others, so barriers are also plausible abilities. As far as physical prowess, Emma's actually trained in hand-to-hand combat, so if an enemy gets too close, don't be nervous about smacking him around with your staff. And I do mean smacking them around with the staff. We all know the combat isn't as elaborate as it's portrayed in the Dragon Age 2 trailer. Doesn't that bother anybody else? It definitely bothers me. It bothers me when game companies advertise things that you know you can't do in the game. I know it's supposed to be cinematic, it's supposed to be attention grabbing and dramatic and intense, but then we get in the game and we're just swinging it around. We don't do incredible jump attacks or anything like that, and just mages in general, there's this stigma around them that they can't use their staff for more than channeling magic. You see it in a lot of video games, and I'm pretty sure it's to keep the boundaries between classes alive, but I don't know, maybe it's just me, but a staff can be more than a focusing stick for magic. Why put a sword at the end of the staff if you're not going to use the sword at the end of the staff? And then on top of that, they removed this little feature from Dragon Age Inquisition entirely. In the beginning of the game, as a mage, when you pick up your staff and Cassandra tells you to put it down, you have the option to tell her you don't need a staff to be dangerous. But that's never challenged in the game. You can't attack or cast a single spell without a staff in your hand. Whereas in Dragon Age Origins, you could be a mage and only cast spells without using a staff. You could be a mage and use a longsword or a bow and arrow. You couldn't enhance the damage output because you're a mage. You couldn't gain additional skills outside of your class. You couldn't gain, like how they do in ESO, you gain skill trees based on the weapons that you used. You couldn't do that in Dragon Age Origins, but I think they did that right in ESO because it allows for people to be a lot more unique with their playstyle. It meant that if I wanted to be like Vilgefortz from The Witcher and just jump through portals and spawn in swords to fight face to face, then I could do that. And that was a very unique approach for a mage. And I'm gonna get off my soapbox now, but seriously, staffs and mages can be more interesting, and I don't feel like they should be limited just for the sake of a class system. But getting back on topic, there is a downside to the skill tree in Dragon Age 2, and that is there is no spell that allows us to turn our skin into a diamond-like substance. Since we cannot turn our skin into a diamond-like substance, raising Emma's strength to enhance her fortitude, as well as unlocking the unshakable passive ability in the Force Mage tree will suffice. Although Emma seems to get knocked down a lot in the animated series, using rock armor is too immersion breaking as a replacement ability. Obviously, cunning is important for defense as well, but resistances to knockdown and being set on fire is also crucial. Magic and willpower will have the most points invested into them, for powerful constant spellcasting before the mana runs out, and to make sure we can use better staffs and weapons as the game progresses. And briefly returning to staffs, I opted to stick with staves that deal spirit damage and sometimes ones that deal physical damage. It did make combat more difficult when the level of the staff dipped too far below my own to be reliable, but eventually I would stumble upon a higher level staff and go from there. We're using these staffs as an extension of Emma's own abilities, so spirit magic is the most consistent with the astral aspect of Emma's powers, and the physical damage staff works because Emma is a telepath. Emma can access parts of the mind, like nerves, to make enemies think and feel they are being hit, like a psychic wound. It's not too much of a stretch, because even in comics, other X-Men talk about Emma reaching deep into their minds and unlocking abilities and finding applications of their powers in ways they hadn't imagined or learned yet, or just helping them remove mental blocks by pushing them in some way to overcome their challenges. And she didn't just reach into their minds and pluck the problem away, she forced them to dig deep within themselves and figure it out on their own. And having that kind of leadership ability means that Emma can boost the morale and prowess of her allies in combat. All of Emma's abilities can become more effective as you upgrade them, making it super tempting to force a large group of enemies into a slumber while paralyzing a smaller group and mind blasting the handful surrounding you at the start of each battle. Crowd control is your role here after all, and horror is a wonderful last resort if you're dealing with an enemy who moves around a lot or gets too close while mind blast is on cooldown. Having these abilities and this kind of control over the battlefield will make you a force to be reckoned with, even among mages. When it comes to progression through certain skill trees and picking abilities for this build, some abilities like Fist of the Maker are optional if you decide not to indulge in minor telekinetic spells. Rock armor is also optional if you really want to use that as your substitute for a diamond-like form. Otherwise, the following abilities will make the build as fleshed out and immersive as possible. Mind Blast, Barrier, upgraded to Arcane Fortress, Arcane Shield, upgraded to Arcane Wall, Horror, upgraded to Despair, Hex of Torment, Sleep, upgraded to Coma, Misdirection Hex, Entropic Cloud, Spirit Bolt, upgraded to Spirit Strike, Dispel Magic, Glyph of Paralysis, upgraded to Glyph of Binding, Heroic Aura, and Unshakable. Unshakable does require Fist of the Maker. By the end of the game, this is what my stats looked like. Keep in mind, these are just a suggestion. You can choose what is most important in this build. Same thing goes for ability upgrades and the dialogue choices that Emma makes. Always remember that you can make this build your own. By the end of the game, you should be an unstoppable, unmovable, mind-breaking mage on a mission to stop the tyranny of the Templars. And for today's tribute, I have a Dragon Age loading screen-esque picture of Emma Frost doing a mind blast or some other telepathic ability, but I also wanted to pay tribute to her diamond form, so I put a grayscale filter over the picture and then removed it to make it look like she's transitioning into a lyrium shade of blue, as mages do rely on lyrium. Thank you all so much for watching the video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for your heroine disguise, and I'll be someone else next time.